Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Radical Edge of HR with HR Knowledge Source, better known as HRKS. And I, of course, am your host, Tanya Hawley, and it's a pleasure to be with you once again. And of course, we have another hot topic for you, and I'm really excited about this one. And of course, the title of today's episode is The Power of Resilience and How to Achieve Workplace Wellness. So I'm so excited to be with you. And of course, we bring the experts to discuss these topics. And once again, we have, I'll say, one and a half experts with us today. And I'll explain in just a minute. But please join me as I welcome Kaitlyn Ball. Hi, Kaitlyn.
Hi, Tanya. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. And Kaitlyn, of course, is with the Cobb Collaborative. And Kaitlyn, if you could go ahead and just tell a little bit about yourselves before we dive in.
Absolutely. So my name is Kaitlyn Ball. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives and Partnerships at Cobb Collaborative. So I actually have a little bit of a background in human resources. My last role was in HR for about 5 years. Then I shifted to the nonprofit world where now do a lot of program coordination and looking at overall outcomes for our initiatives. And I also have a master's in industrial organizational psychology. So this is really important to me. I think connecting the psychology and that human experience with the workplace, right? We spend so much time at work. So that's what really drove me to understand kind of the intricacies of workplace wellness and organizational development, and just so excited to be here to share some insight and knowledge.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kaitlyn. And I said one and a half because we also have scheduled another guest, another expert, which was McCarty. And unfortunately, technology is great when it works, but we had some technical difficulties and challenges, so she won't be able to be with us today. I'm hoping maybe we can bring her back another time to have a discussion, but she's going to join us in the chat and give some input that way. So Ellen, I'm sorry, but thank you so much for trying, and we'll look for you in the chat, and I'll be happy to read your comments. And again, if anyone has any questions or comments, go ahead and put them in the chat. I'll be happy to read them to Kaitlyn. She'll be happy to answer them. So let's go ahead and dive in with this hot topic. Before we do the official dive in with the official questions, can we just explain why workplace wellness is even important? Why is this a hot topic? What is going on with that, Kaitlyn?
Yeah, so workplace wellness is really, like you said, it's a big topic right now. And it's because as human beings, right, we spend so much time at work, and we live in a society today where we're so connected all the time. It's always go, 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 go. We've got all these deadlines to meet, and that can really take a toll on us. So when we are experiencing maybe burnout or secondary traumatic stress, things like that, it can have an impact on the way that we work together in our team environments. It can lower our productivity, lower morale. It can have physical effects too, right? We can be physically ill more frequently. We can be more accident prone. So there's a lot of effects that we carry with us both physically, mentally, and spiritually that it can impact. And there's a lot of stressors through work that can contribute to that, right? So we have burnout, and burnout is really a result of this imbalance between the demands of work and the resources to meet those demands. So many times when we experience burnout is because the demands are too high without having the resources and support that we need to meet those demands. And then on the flip side, we also have this secondary traumatic stress, which is more along the lines of experiencing traumas and stressors from others. So in your job, if let's say you work in the human services field, or you are a first responder or a healthcare worker, right? It's this thing we call compassion fatigue, where you just get really burnt out because of the traumas that you're experiencing vicariously through others. And like I said, these can have impacts on our physical bodies, our mental well-being, and the way that we engage in the relationships in our lives.
That's really interesting. You hit on a lot of things there, which truly explain workplace wellness. And one thing that stuck with me, or as you were saying that, what I thought of is that how it can carry over, or does carry over into your home life, into your everyday life. So, people that may bring their work home. A lot of us work from home, but it's still there,
Yes.
and how to separate it, and how to still have the balance. So all of that
Mhm.
comes together when we talk about workplace wellness. So thank you
Yes.
for that. It's a great definition and examples in that. So what is the community resiliency model? That's a key thing in our talk today. Can you explain that to everyone? Why is it important?
Yes. Yes. Well, the reason the community resiliency model is so important because we know that we can mitigate the impacts of burnout and secondary traumatic stress with wellness skills, right? And the community resiliency model is all about wellness, but it's about how we understand trauma as well. So the
Mm,
community resiliency model essentially is this biological model that helps us focus on our nervous system. So when we are dysregulated and don't really have control of, maybe our actions, our thoughts, or behaviors, right? We can kind of look inwards into our bodies using this biological model to help regulate the nervous system when we are experiencing periods of trauma or distress or reminded of those stressors in our lives. And it's really important to build our set of healthy coping mechanisms and wellness skills, because that's really what is going to impact us in the long run, and be able to sustain our wellness skills, right? If we're using some unhealthy coping mechanisms, that's really not sustainable long term. So with the community resiliency model, it's all about understanding trauma, how we carry that with us in our bodies, how our past experience may shape our future behaviors, and then what can we do when we do find ourselves in these state of distress or trauma, and what can we do to kind of bring ourselves back into that okay zone, which we'll talk about.
okay. Caitlin, how long has this been in existence? When was it developed? How long have you been
So
practicing?
yeah, it's been around for years. I want to say back in the 90s is really when
Oh,
the work started.
okay.
Um, the community resiliency model was started for really humanitarian relief. So
Okay.
going to different countries that were impacted by natural
Oh,
disasters like tsunamis and earthquakes, and really just helping support those individuals who were experiencing some of the most traumatic things you can experience, and that disrupts your whole life, right?
hmm.
And so it's a really great pair for things like therapy. Community resiliency model is not a replacement for therapy. It's just to really give you some skills to keep in your toolkit so you can kind of function well on a day-to-day basis. You can really think clearly, and not let your emotions take over your thinking.
So did people start looking at it more for corporate workers or for people in the office setting? Because it sounds like at first it was more for what you said, those traumatic events like, hurricanes, or, people have something traumatic like that in their life. Was there something that, I'm thinking COVID, or something that made
Yes.
people start looking at to use it more in a corporate setting?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of research lately that is looking at it in various spaces. And so there are, the great thing about the community resiliency model is that it is such an adaptable model for
Mm-hmm.
all kinds
Okay.
of sectors of business, of cultures, of even within the lifespan. You can really adapt it, and use it for anybody. So that is what
Okay.
they've kind of found through their research, is that it is a universal model that can really be
I like that.
applied across the board.
I like that. And what makes it unique? We may have touched on some of this. I'm not sure with my questions, but
Yeah.
is there some uniqueness? What makes CRM unique?
Yeah. So for me, I think the one of the biggest thing that stands out and what I love the most about this model is really the perspective shift that you gain from understanding trauma, how it lives within your body, right? And all about wellness.
Hmm.
So we have this very conventional way of thinking where we are quick to judge people's actions and behaviors. And a lot of times we are focused on the question of what is wrong with you, right? So let's say you're in a heated argument with your partner and you exchange some words. There's some things that are said that maybe you don't mean to say, or some things that you did that you didn't mean to do, and we're so quick to go to that, well, what's wrong with you, right? You must just be a bad person, right? You don't care about me, you don't care
Hmm.
about relationship, the rules, right? And so that is kind of what we're automatically predisposed to go to. But that really dismisses the human experience, right? It dismisses the things and the experiences that got that person to that point. And so what the Trauma Resource Institute and the community resiliency model, it really helps shift that perspective to, instead of saying what's wrong with you, we're saying what happened to you, right? What were those experiences that may have led you to this behavior, right? Maybe what were some things that happened to you in your childhood that kind of carry over into your adult life, right? We gain this compassion where we understand that like people aren't bad, they just might lack the skills to self-regulate, to cope, and they don't really know how to do so, right? And so we gain this shift of, okay, well, what's happened to you? And then as we continue to move through the model, continue to gain more understanding of trauma, we can really shift that focus to what is right with you and what are your strengths. And then we can understand that, people need help, right? We can't just learn these skills overnight and we're fixed, right? So it takes time, and we gain that compassion for ourselves as we learn skills and for others as we're working through that with everybody else.
That's great. Can you describe what you all refer to as the resilient zone?
Yes. So the resilient zone essentially is our okay zone, right? So we think of it, I like to think of it as the lanes in a road, right? When we're in our okay zone, when we're driving down that road, we might swerve a little, we might dodge a pothole, so we might experience a range of emotions. We might be happy, we might be sad, we might be a little irritable, but we are still able to think clearly and think rationally. We're still safe within our lanes, right? But then what happens is when we experience stress or traumas in our lives, we can get bumped out of our resilient zone. And so we have this zone right here, right? We can be bumped high, which I like to think of it as like our engine catching on fire as we're driving down the road, right? We experience these things like panic, right? We're distressed, we're worried, we might feel physical symptoms too, physical pain. And so that is when we're in that high zone. Vice versa, we can go down into the low zone, which I like to think of as like a flat tire, right? We're very deflated. We are isolated a little bit. We're depressed. We're feeling this kind of sadness. We feel a little bit numb. And so what happens is when we get bumped out of our resilient zone, we kind of get stuck, really, we don't want to get stuck, right? It's okay if we get bumped out, but we don't want to stay in those high or those low zones. We want to get back to that resilient zone where we're thinking clearly and rationally, and then can move forward in our day-to-day lives without letting the emotions kind of take over. And so the skills help us learn to recognize when we're kind of high or low in our resilient zone, and then what we can do to come back into that resilient zone as we're moving through our day-to-day lives. I also like to think of it, football season just started. It's like our padding, right? We're going to get hit with things, right? But we want to have that buffer, that resilience in ourselves, and we can actually widen our resilient zone through wellness skills and through learning and understanding trauma.
Yeah, so equipping ourselves to come back into or how to get back into the resilient zone, or things you can do to keep yourself there, or to at least return to it.
Absolutely. And
I assume that's what you teach in this model, correct?
Yes.
Coping skills. Okay, yep. Wonderful. So, I like this one. I'm anxious to hear this. What are describe the 6 wellness skills?
Yes. So the 6 wellness skills, as I mentioned, this is a biological model. So it's all about the sensation that we're feeling inside. A lot of times we focus on, what are we thinking? What are we feeling? But rarely do we look inwards and say, what am I sensing, right? What am I noticing on the inside? And so that's really what the CREM skills are all about, is identifying what's happening on the inside and then using things to kind of help get back into that resilient zone. So as you mentioned, there's a total of 6 wellness skills we go throughout the model. And they're all really focused on the foundation, which is tracking. So tracking is the first skill that we teach. And really it is the foundation for all of the other skills, because we have to be able to track and know what's happening on the inside to know whether we need to implement one of these skills, or whether they're working or not. And we need to kind of change course and maybe pick another one. And so tracking is literally just paying attention to what's happening on the inside, but really focusing on the physiological aspect. So what is my heart rate doing, right? Is it racing really fast, or is it kind of slow and steady? What is my breathing doing? Am I holding my breath some? Am I taking long, relaxed breaths? Is it very short and shallow? What is the muscle tension happening in my body, right? Am I being tight in my shoulders? Am I clenching my fists, right? Where is this happening inside? You can also look at things like your body temperature, just the way that you're holding yourself, things like that. And the skills allow you to recognize those things. So we go inward and say, okay, where are we noticing this? What's happening on the inside? And then we identify whether those sensations we're experiencing are pleasant, unpleasant, or if they're neutral, right? And what we want to do is focus on those pleasant or neutral sensations to help kind of bring us back down, activate some of that parasympathetic nervous system that allows us to kind of slow and steady everything back down to get back into our resilient zone.
Okay.
So that's really, the first skill. The other skills kind of build off of that. There's one that is resourcing, which is thinking about, a person, place, thing that gives you strength and uplifts you. So that's resourcing. Grounding is another really awesome skill that we focus on a lot. It's really about mindfulness. And so being in this present moment, connecting with the physical contact of the ground or things beneath you that are supporting you. There's help now, reset now skills, which are just kind of immediate, quick things to get you back into your resilient zone.
I'm sorry, what was that, Kaitlyn? Repeat that one.
Yes, that one is help now, reset now. So something as simple as taking a sip of water can help now immediately. So it's help now or reset now. And then the other skills are spontaneous gesturing and movements, and then shift and stay. And what's great about these skills is that, again, we're going into the body and kind of reading ourselves in a little bit of a different way. But that can be new for a lot of people. So there is an app. There is an app through the Trauma Resource Institute. It's called iChill. So ICHILL. And it's a wonderful app that actually goes through all of the skills. So if you've either never gone through CREM before, or if you're gone through a workshop, but you're like, I kind of need some help getting back into the skills and really practicing these. The app has guided recordings to go through each of the skills. It kind of breaks down all of them for you. So you can really start practicing on your own with the iChill app, which is an incredible resource.
Great. I put that in the chat. So iChill app. Okay. And then I tried to make sure I have these right. The 6 wellness skills were tracking, resourcing, grounding, help now, reset now, spontaneous gesturing. Was that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Spontaneous gesturing.
And then shift and stay.
Yes. Correct.
Okay, great.
That's it.
So I put them in the chat so people can refer to that later. Thank you for sharing that. Those are very interesting. And then, of course, the iChill app I put in the chat as well, so people can have that. Now, this is our last and final question, which I found interesting because I had asked how long it had been around. So this question kind of ties into that when I was asking how long this model had actually been implemented or how long it has been in existence. And the last question is, has CRM been evaluated and what are the outcomes? So I'm curious to find out, what are the outcomes?
Yes, so it has been widely studied, like I said, for years and across a bunch of different sectors. There's been a lot of research coming out of Cambridge. Right now, there's a lot of work being done at Emory University, actually. They have done some studies with nursing, specifically during COVID, right? That was a stressful time for all of us, but we know that nurses had even more of that load, right? They were carrying a lot through COVID. And so they actually did some research with the nurses at Emory and found that with the skill like grounding, what they did was they focused on an area of their scrub, kind of to just touching the fabric, right? Grounding with the fabric that's on their scrubs. And that improved their workplace well-being, right? They had reduced symptoms of anxiety and depression. They actually worked better as a team. It improved their kind of team cohesiveness, actually, because it just, the model connects us a little bit more. It helps bring us back to our present moment. We do know too that grounding helps strengthen the relationships that we have in our lives, because a lot of times we're focused on like what's happening, what we have going on in the future or what may have happened in the past, and we're not always connected very presently. And so grounding, it does a really great job of that. And as we saw with the nurses at Emory, it improved many symptoms of their well-being, but then also improved that kind of team cohesiveness as well. And there is a lot, like I said, they've used it on so many different individuals in so many different sectors across many cultures. And we see similar results every time. Now, it is evidence based, so it's evidence informed. So you kind of have to be evidence informed before being evidence based practice. So it is in the process of becoming, it is evidence informed. But yes, there's been so much wonderful research done. There's a lot of the research studies posted on the Trauma Resource Institute website. So if you go to the traumaresourceinstitute.org or .com, and then you go to research, you can look at all of the different studies they've done and see the different results, especially if you're curious about specific populations that they've worked with.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. That is quite interesting. New information, I'm sure, for a lot of people. So in closing, because we are pretty much out of time, just about. But if people want to find out more about CRM model, can you tell them where they can find you or find out more information, or if they're interested in actually having someone explain it to them or, teach it to them, where they can go?
Yes. So you can either reach out to me directly. I can link my contact info, but then you can head to cobbcollaborative.org. That is where we post our training opportunities. You can find a little bit more about the community resiliency model, and then you can request a training as well. So at Cobb Collaborative, mental health is one of our big initiatives that we really want to educate our community about mental health and provide support. So we do offer community resiliency model trainings for free to groups that want them. We do offer them community-wide. So we do have quarterly community-wide offerings that anybody can sign up for. If you go to cobbcollaborative.org/events, you can see the upcoming trainings that we have. And then you can also request one specifically for your group. Again, we can bring them to you for free, and then we do adapt them to different groups too. So if there's a group that needs just a 60 or 90-minute presentation, we can do that. We've also done 3-hour workshops too, which really get into the skill building activities. So it's a very adaptable model as well, which makes it really great because we can focus on specific topics that may be more prevalent to first responders or the business kind of group. So it's really incredible kind of universal model that, we can, my contact information too is kball@cobbcollaborative.org. So you can email me directly. We'll also link some of Ellen's information too, so you can reach out to Ellen as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So everyone, you have that information. If you like more, it's free. And they can adapt it to your organization. So Kaitlyn, thank you so much. We appreciate that information and you coming to share that. Ellen, we missed you, but hopefully we'll get back together another time. So please support Kaitlyn. If you have even the smallest question, please reach out to them. They'll be happy to come to you or respond to you and hopefully share that information with your organization. And so please follow HRKS. Let's not forget about HRKS. You can follow us on all of your social media platforms at HRKS LLC. Be sure to follow, like us. We appreciate that. And if you have any HR needs, we'll be happy to help you with that as well. Again, reach out to us at HRKS LLC. Thank you so much, Kaitlyn, for your time, your talent, your information, and for sharing this wonderful new model with us. Again, the title of today's show was The Power of Resilience, How to Achieve Workplace Wellness. And of course, doing that is with the CRC, the Community Resiliency Model. Say that 3 times fast, Kaitlyn.
Right.
Thank you so
That's why we
very
shorten
much.
it to CRIM.
Oh, Crim. I didn't know that. You didn't tell me
Yeah,
that.
we call it CRIM sometimes too.
Oh,
Shorten it
yes.
up. It's a
You didn't
mouthful.
share that with me. Okay, so Crim, you made me go through all that. And I could have just said Crim. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll remember that for next time. Thank you so much, Kaitlyn. Great information. We appreciate you. Everyone, have a great day. Make sure you come back and see us at the Radical Edge of HR. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Tanya.